Hey everyone, it's Jay Tahoe here. Just thought I'd go for a nice brisk walk this evening and make a video real quick. Tonight I wanted to talk about Niccolo Machiavelli. He was an Italian diplomat and economist who wrote the book The Prince back in the 1500s. I guess the main tenet of The Prince is that the prince should be feared and not loved, meaning it's better to make people fear you than to actually be liked. So it's kind of like a dichotomy, like there's basically different ways to get people to follow you. One, I guess, would be fear, like a totalitarian state, like the Nazis, or like a Joseph Stalin, right? Like a Hitler or a Stalin. The other would be to gain a following by being liked, right? Like a Martin Luther King or a Mahatma Gandhi at a world level. But we're talking about in like a business sense, I guess. So I guess how does this relate to black pill stuff? I was watching one of Pygmy or Face and LMS's streams, and they were saying, well, if you're tall and good looking and a Chad, you're gonna be more successful in business, of course, because people are gonna gravitate towards you, or they're more likely to listen to the tall manager, right? Because he's more physically imposing. But it got me thinking, you kind of see both. You kind of see sometimes I see a guy who's average or short, but has a decent face, or you see a guy who's tall with a busted face, kind of like an ogre, and then I guess he's there to scare people or whatever, or like a bouncer at a bar or something. It's very rarely you see this Henry Cavill looking Chad guy in that middle management role. So it kind of got me thinking, that I guess because I've been in a lot of management positions myself. I'm in one now in middle management, and it's what works better? What do you guys think? Do you agree with Machiavelli? Is it better to have people fear you, or would you rather just be liked? Because I guess we're banking on the good looking but not necessarily tall guy. I guess if you have a aesthetically pleasing face, you have the halo effect going for you, and you can use that to get ahead in the business world. I mean, it can halo your achievements. It can make you stand out a little more versus someone else. People might be a little less on guard or on edge around you. Or if you're very tall and tall and muscular, you could be very physically imposing. So people might be afraid to challenge you on things. They might, you might be a more effective leader for that reason. Me personally, I've always tried to, be reasonable with people. I don't mean to, all right, it's just going to come off as a brag. I had, a survey where basically the employees rated management, and I, scored highest among my, peer group of other managers for, employee satisfaction with me. So, and that's kind of what I aim for, without sucking up to people, but at least being reasonable and I guess hearing them out. So I'm of the camp that I guess reward is a better motivator than fear. That's disciplinary action, and punishing people is usually the last thing I resort to when I need a change in behavior. Whereas I guess a Machiavelli would be start the public executions, right? I mean, that does back in the day when they had public executions, in Europe and everything, right? Back in the Middle Ages. I guess that you're gonna have lower crime. Who was that economist who basically I'm having such a brain fart right now. There was that economist who wrote that book about basically public execution. The more severe the punishment, the less likely people are to do crime. So obviously fear is effective, but it doesn't necessarily motivate. If people don't feel that there's a carrot at the end of the stick, then they're kind of just gonna exist. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Office Space. It came out in 1999, directed by Mike Judge, had Ron Livingston, Jennifer Aniston in it. Great movie. But there was a part where he says, Well, you know, Bob, it'll just make someone work hard enough just to not get fired. So I guess that's kind of like where I feel about Machiavelli is like, you know, you'll kind of have people like in that people will do the bare minimum because they don't want the consequences of not doing it, but they're not really incentivized to go above and beyond. You know, I guess in like the workplace, I've had several teams that, you know, exceeded what they were supposed to do. So, you know, I that's where my evidence of my line of thinking that that reward and recognition kind of outweighs fear. You know, I mean, and there's some morality you have to factor into that too. Of course, a guy like Machiavelli would say, I think he actually had a quote that morality has no place in politics. So I guess he would say just the end justifies the means, and getting people to behave the way you want them to is really all that matters. But, you know, it's definitely an interesting dichotomy there. I would think this relates to the black pill, because I see a lot of, you know, people in this sphere saying like, oh, well, you know, we wouldn't have problems like, you know, like incels and everything if you took away women's rights. Which got me thinking, I'm like, so you would have to infringe on somebody to push ahead your own agenda. I mean, so, and at that point, it's kind of like forcing somebody to do what they want for you. It's kind of like you can't force, at the end of the day, you can't force somebody to like you. You can't force somebody to love you. It's kind of like that saying, like, if you see a flower, do you pick it and then it'll die, right? Or do you just let it there and leave it there and admire it? It's kind of like that too. So it's kind of like, you know, if you have to resort to that, I guess that's very Machiavelli. Machiavelli would say the ends justifies the means. I don't know if I agree, but yeah, that was just a thought that I was having today, so I thought I'd make a quick video on it and you know, take a nice walk tonight. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Take care.